Hello, hello, hello. All right, I'm still sick, but I'm not sick enough. I'm not like bedridden anymore. But I have like gunk in my lungs. I feel like this has happened to me a couple times before in my life, but it feels weird because it's like, isn't this how you get pneumonia? My friend just, uh, like, my friend just got pneumonia a month ago or whatever. But yeah, it's like it gets in the lungs and then it gets infected. But if you get sick, I thought when you're not sick anymore, then you don't have crap in your lungs. But I'm like starting to get better, still have crap in my lungs. And I think, yeah, this happened to me once before. And I think it took a long time. Prater was seven, what's up? It took like another week for the crap to clear out of my lungs, but then it did, and then I was fine. I didn't get pneumonia. So that's what I'm telling myself. But I'm a little bit like nervous about it. I got my coffee here. One second. I added a new sticker. Can you guys see the new sticker? I'm a tiny little square here because I'm gonna screen share in a second. But Band of the Crow. Look at that. But so I was sick. I'm kind of on the verge of wrapping up a couple projects and starting uh, a couple more. So kind of in between. In between, I like to get some writing in. I'm thinking about taking even like a week or so off to just write. Or I still got to do a few things, but kind of writing every morning. I started a new Naked Samurai short, and it would be cool if I could get just another and another and another. But those are surprisingly hard to write because me and Nate wrote a full like movie script for the Naked Samurai, and it needs a little rewrite to make it like more like a comic, but it that is pretty useful and could be like a graphic novel one day. Um, but that is almost like separate from the shorts. The shorts are like a lot more fun in a way, and they're kind of cool, but they're harder to think of ideas to like fit that. Let me see. I'm gonna screen share. I might kind of jump right in. We'll see. I'll go at least an hour, maybe. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. So if I share my screen here, I have this kind of besides my normal notebooks and stuff. If I'm watching TV at night, I'll be scribbling in my notebook or whatever. But I got these like Google Docs that just get typed into a ton. I don't. Oh yeah. So it's 281 pages. I don't know what all the. I don't know what all is down there. I should take a stroll down that and see what the heck is even in written back in those annals. Annals. You guys know that word, annals? But so one of the things about lately this is like a little bit of like a what do they call it, like a writing journal or whatever. But I've been working on the Percival scripts, and the second one is like oddly complicated, and it's seems like it'll be okay, but it definitely makes me kind of miss writing simpler stuff. And I was thinking like movies are I've kind of gone away from trying to write movie style because when I started, that was like all I did. I've kind of deliberately tried to write more comic style, even though I still like controlling the budget. I like writing quote unquote low budget because that's just like more fun for some reason. But um, but movies they're like a little more minimalist, a little weirder, sometimes a little more like short story y, but then expanded also on top of that. And that's like cinematic or whatever. And you can do those kind of stories with comics still, but that idea that they're simple. Like if you think of like a western. So this is one. So I kind of had these list of five pretty darn generic, simple stories, simple genres. But then if you jump in and actually start writing them like in earnest and making them your own, you could still have something that you're really proud of and like want to work on. Something just kind of potentially in your back pocket for future projects or whatever. But one of them was a Percival spinoff. It was one of the Percival episode ideas that didn't get used, but I was like, this could just be like it's whenever they feel to me like they're almost like a western plot. Then then I'm like, oh, that's like when you could plug in. Edwin, what's up, man? What pray to her? I saw a couple good older movies this weekend. Memories of Murder and The Vanishing. I've heard of Memories of Murder. I want to see that one. I've tried to start it a few times, but I haven't been in the mood to read what they're saying. Hey, Phil, what's up, man? How's it going? Check it out. If I cough, you might be able to see that I'm sick. Let me see if it. You guys catch that? Did you hear like the rumbling in my lungs? I can feel it. Can you like hear it? I can feel myself like coughing up the crap in my lungs, but it's not going like it normally goes. I feel like you have 1 day or 2 days of that max, and then your lungs are clear and you're good. My lungs still got crap in them. Um, so yeah, so like these five super generic, simple stories that I kind of wanted to start, and they're all really early starting points. So like one was like cyberpunk, which is kind of all I have, like robot. And the thing, because I was thinking like sometimes you'd be like, I want to tell a cyberpunk story, but every cyberpunk story is about cyborgs or like like meta human kind of stuff, and so I don't want to do that. I want to tell a cyberpunk story that isn't about meta human uh, stuff. And then you'd be like, for this exercise, like, no, 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 we're not trying to be original. We just want to do the most basic, simple, fun little things. And then in the process of fleshing it out, yeah, you try and make it your own and then see if you are still proud of it when it's done. So, and my idea is to like legit follow through with all five of these if I can. But so one is cops versus robbers. I don't even have a plot for that yet. But I'm like, what are those common cops versus robbers? One of my favorites, that's like Heat, But one of my favorites is a movie called it's called it's called Driver or The Driver. Um, that's awesome, and that's like a cop is trying to catch a driver for a getaway driver, so he actually stages a fake heist that the driver gets hired on for, and I think it's illegal what the cop is even doing. But so that's like a pretty simple plot. It's like the trap, you know, because you kind of set up the character, set up they don't like each other, set up there's a cop, there's a driver, you might see him. The stories start that way. A lot of times you see them in their element, kind of. So you see him just on a job. He's like pulling it off or whatever, gets away. Then you see like the cop hates him, and you see the cop hatch his plan to like, uh, which what he ends up doing is letting out uh, people who are in jail to be his crony guys, but kind of forcing them to do it, or else he's going to kill him or whatever, blackmailing him, that kind of thing. Driver Ryan Gosling or something else. Something else. It's from the 80s. Trying to think, I can't remember. I kind of stuck with names, but I know all of them, and then I just can't recall them, and that bums me out when that it happens a lot. But it's I don't know. I guess if it does happen and it really annoys me, I'll just make sure I look up the name. It's the guy who directed The Warriors and like a bunch of other awesome movies. Uh, Directed by Walter Hill. So yeah, The Driver is a Walter Hill movie. Walter Hill's awesome. Um, yeah, yeah, Ryan O'Neal. CJ, what's up, man? Um, Dude, you know what else? I hear like a ringing, and I think it's like my computer whistling. Does anyone have a computer that whistles, but it whistles as a little ring? It's like when the fan goes, there's the lightest little ring, and it's kind of a bummer. I feel like that's like a new sound. Man, it makes me think I want to back up my computer. I got to get a new computer sooner or later, but it still might be a year or two. That or tinnitus. Yeah, but I walk away and the ringing goes away. I think it's in this room. I don't know what it is. It's like some kind of electronic thing. Um, but yeah, it's distracting. Cops. So cops are around the Percival Monastery. This one I actually have a beginnings of a plot for. This one I have a beginnings of a plot for. So I'll type this one out real fast. So for the zombie, because one is like a zombie post-apocalyptic movie. No matter what, that's gonna be like generic. And if you actually like try to like, let's do it in a non-generic way, you that is not even to say good either. It's just kind of so overdone. But that's kind of the fun exercise. But it would be like maybe you could treat it like an episode of Walking Dead or whatever, uh like they're all kind of the same, but you would want to make it a good episode, like here's one like good characters and whatever. But one idea I had was it was like kids or or teens exploring abandoned house get either killed or kidnapped by marauding bandits, and the local like kind of community organizes a what's it called when you get a group going to go get someone, a posse, organizes a posse to go after them. So that's like, that's a cliche. I don't know if you say cliche, but yeah, that's a stock Western plot put into a zombie apocalypse. Sounds kind of cool. Within that too, I had one other idea is kind of an economy plot. Like point A to point B, like find something that is valuable elsewhere, but not valuable here at all. Like, um, I don't know. Like it kind of could be anything, but say it's like batteries, and the batteries, you know, they just found a huge stock of Costco batteries, and so it's not really useful like where they are. But if they get it like two states over, there is like the biggest community, and the batteries could really help them. So they would be very useful. So then in that plot, it's actually kind of like a cattle drive. Uh, so if there's some way that you could combine both those plots, I don't even know if that's a good idea, but so those are the two. And then, you kind of quickly, the second you choose to zoom in to the point where you're starting to writing, you're kind of like naming characters, or you're picturing them in your head at least, and you're picturing scenes and stuff that would even happen in the story, which we can skip to another one for now. But again, the idea is to at least approach it like in earnest. Gonna maybe try and do all these as actual like 90-page movie screenplays. Not worry about them too much after that until way down the line. Uh, take a if it's a month or two every morning writing a little bit. That still get falling behind a little bit on some other stuff. I don't have super hard deadlines right now. I'm back to being kind of self-employed, so I can kind of afford it for a little bit. Just want to focus on writing a little bit. So Dungeon Crawler, I wrote Chase the Chaser is actually a fun kind of subplot thing, or not subplot, subgenre. It's kind of hard to think of an example, but you can imagine like say like you have if you have like a sheriff type guy chasing a thief, and then you have like a king, whatever, what we'll say like a CIA agent chasing the sheriff, and they kind of all have reasons why they're doing it. So there's this kind of three-way chase. There's a lot of interactivity you potentially in that situation that you could set it up. Um, so yeah, using that, but plugging it all in, setting it up, thinking about the location. The other one for that I kind of wanted to check off is just like if you could have. I feel like this isn't even done too much, as much as it should be even, but um, Band of the Crow I think is doing it a little bit or a lot, but it's kind of the Dark Souls esque feel, but just instead of in a video game, it's in a narrative. And mostly that is just with like huge, huge, awesome locations, like and setting up how that works too, because they're often abandoned or overrun. The kind of the mystery of the locations. There's all kinds of ways you can try and think about that stuff. Simply Green. Wanted man flees into a dungeon to avoid authorities. Yeah, that's like a stock plot that works great. And one of those, I think they use that in Fear and Hunger, which is an awesome RPG maker style video game, indie game from Russia. And I've watched a fair amount of that get played. That's another one. It's like channel. So I would say on this like channel, Fear and Hunger and Dark Souls. But both those are like so dark and grim. Sometimes I don't always like. I mean, I like a little levity or fun or whatever. So I don't know. So we'll see. So we got. So the ones we don't have is Cyberpunk, The Cops View Robbers. We do have the Percival Monastery, and that would be almost three that are like they. I could kind of jump into them and start doing characters and scenes and stuff, um, sequences and everything like that. Uh, Maybe we'll type out the Percival Monastery plot. So this one is it's almost like a Western plot. I might try and think of that like for all these. And by the way, I have like five or so scripts that I'm kind of working on in the background real slowly. Those aren't getting like jumped into yet either, but those are more like trying really hard to be original. Some of them are complicated. So this is like it's kind of just an itch I want to scratch is these so like the Percival Monastery plot, it's one location. So that kind of controls the budget. And that's kind of a fun exercise that I enjoy doing too. But yeah, so like a nun has the grail, uh, and I'm like, how she got it, we don't know. No. Sooner or later, Percival will find his way to her hospital. She's running a hospital. Um, because and she's like the antediluvian version of a nun, by the way. So whatever that would be. She's like a monk, a priestess monk, whatever. Um Sooner or later Percy will find his way to her hospital because he's looking for the grail. Uh but she doesn't know this. And she is using the grail to secretly run the hospital uh and like make it very successful, trying to keep it a secret, but rumors are spreading. So Percival does show, and then she's like, hanging and with like homeless dudes and shit. Loosely inspired by Viridiana, one of my favorite movies by what's his name? Uh Brunwell. Luis Brunwell. Uh so she's doing so Percival shows up. And then she might have like a little healing plot. Like she just has some people she's healing and helping. Um, it could be what bums me out sometimes. I'll think of like an idea I like and realize I'm already using it. So I have an idea I'm using in another Percival idea that's also not used in like the first batch of stories. It would be in the second batch, but it would be Percival kind of coming to the equivalent of a celebrity rehab thing in the mountains, and that's kind of where the Grail is needed or where his journey takes him, and that's like funny. But so her thing, I was like, it would be funny if it's like someone tried to use it for rehab or whatever. But I think I can't. I kind of want to not pull a trigger on that idea yet. But that is a fun one. So maybe that could get repurposed into this one. But this one, I'm trying to keep it simple. But it's funny, if you're talking a 90-minute, 2-hour movie, you can keep it quote unquote simple, but that's a lot of stuff that's got to happen in 90 minutes still. And even if, it could be, one, if you have, well, I'll keep typing and I'll with this one, we can even try like a little scene breakdown too after this. So Percival shows up. She keeps it secret at first, uh, but he catches on, comes clean with her that he needs the Grail. She refuses. He's like, okay, I won't just take it. I'll hang and help you for a bit, but I do have to go eventually, and the Grail has to come with me. Like kick the can down the road a little bit, like cross this bridge when we come to it. And she doesn't like it either. So they have some tension, maybe some romance, but they don't act on it, that kind of thing, whatever. Um, Now, then, I'll say like maybe some shenanigans at the hospital. But the big kind of plot thing is like local bandits, marauder, warlord guy hears about the Grail and wants it too. So it's kind of like simple as that. Then that becomes a little bit almost like a Seven Samurai plot. Like Percival, they know they're coming, uh, and he would have some time to like kind of prepare, or High Noon, that kind of plot. He has some time to prepare for this gang coming to get the Grail, and he's gonna stay and fight him. He can maybe recruit some help. I'm not sure how we'll go about that, but yeah, super simple Western plot. Eventually, he does kind of save the day, and then the nun would realize it's right to let him go with the Grail, partly because he literally just saved her or whatever. So it's almost like funny. It's convenient for him that the Marauders eventually try and take the Grail. Caleb, what's up, man? Psychology is another one to play around with in those situations. Characters seeing things that don't exist. Oh yeah, is that back with the Dark Souls style thing? That could be cool. How's it going, everyone? Okay, so this one's kind of the most fully envisioned. It's the most like you could almost do it. What's it? It's like ad libs. You know those games you play where you just fill in the blank. This is straight up fill in the blank. This is one like I feel like I could almost like write this in one day. That's the thing. I haven't had the feeling of writing a full movie script in one day since I was like in my early 20s. And I did that hand couple times. I did it a couple times, and they were maybe even three times. Three times. They were all bad, but it was a fun feeling. And it's the feeling of like, the movie's almost playing in your head. The vision is so strong, and then you're typing it as you go. And that totally kind of stopped. I haven't had that feeling in years. I think partly because if you are doing that, it means you're kind of a lot of times kind of doing something that's already been done or whatever. Whereas if you're kind of trying to dig around to construct something kind of fun and new for you at least, then it's a lot harder to just like see it play literally in your head or whatever. Sometimes when I'm brainstorming with Jared, uh, we'll spitball back and forth, and it becomes almost like improv. We'll see what makes each other kind of chuckle. That is a fun, almost equivalent where you're kind of trying to see the story in real time, but a lot of times it's a lot slower. But anyway, this one is almost there in real time, which is kind of fun. But it becomes a little bit of this experiment. Like, if this is all written out, is it like what's there to make it special? I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, like the things that separate would be like the characters, the individual aspects. You could have some good interactivity. Interactivity. A lot of times, interactivity is like two characters that each have a secret, and like, are they going to share their secret or not? And that's already when Percival meets the nun, it would be like that kind of scene. Um, Rodriguez told young guys to make the film that's playing in your head. Yeah, I know. I've heard some of those like Tarantino. A lot of people were saying like make the movie that doesn't exist that you want to see. I kind of like that thing. Um, and then so yeah, if there's like two categories, there's say you're really trying to like construct something that to you is super fresh and fun, and you're just so excited about it, but it's taking a longer time, and then there's another thing over here where you're kind of, it's like low stakes. You're just like, F it, I'm just gonna use a plug and play subgenre, plug in my characters and off to the races and have fun with it if I can. Like those are two kind of completely different things. And that's kind of what happens to me sometimes is like it's like FOMO, or it's just like I call it itches you want to scratch. But if I'm kind of doing one thing, I think about the other. And I like to do both if possible. I have like a little in both realms of creativity where one is more derivative and then one is more where you're actually trying to be, because I think the derivative stuff is interesting. Like it's interesting this, and it's come up here and there, but I haven't fully committed to this as a straight up experiment. Like I'm gonna write a derivative story and see if I can make it fun and original to me. If that happens over the course of just making it, like the most obvious example we've been talking, but it's the zombie movie. So if Narwhal did a zombie movie, it could have scenes that you've never seen before in a zombie movie, but you've seen scenes like them. You haven't seen these characters. Like say even a zombie movie starts and it's like two teenagers coming upon an abandoned house, and they start rummaging through the house and they find the stash of batteries, and then they see that there is a bandit in the house, and so they have to run, and the bandit chases them, and like that would be like, I feel like that hasn't been done, but it has. But it's kind of it's just coming down to like if you're in the mood, especially as a viewer, if you're in the mood for that or not. But if you can build up to big good emotions, good action, like some of the basics, then it would feel like it kind of justifies its existence. Serious man, what's up, man? 1 second here. Dudes at 5:30. Timberwolves play OKC, so I'm definitely gonna be watching that. Michael Duche, I've done some of my best work sitting in a crowded, loud bar. Sometimes you even pick up snippets of useful dialogue drifting across the room. Yeah, and just being in, yeah, like a zone like that can be fun for creativity. I've been flipping back and forth like on the philosophy of creativity. It's something that Robert Rodriguez says in his recent interview. I saw some of those. He did it with a couple of different people, but he did Rogan. And one of the things he was saying is like everyone has their own individual creativity angel, and that is the angel that gives you ideas, but you have to jump in and start working on it for the angel to like notice you and then start feeding you ideas. So I totally thought that too for the longest time, and maybe I still kind of do, but I'm a little bit back. It's funny how it balances with the ego because it actually goes both ways. So you would one thing I was thinking originally is like if you say like it's not me, it's the angel, that's anti-ego. That seemingly would be good for to be a good writer. I know a lot of writers say like you got to kill your ego, and I feel like that's true. I definitely believe that. But so yeah, it's not me, it's the angel. Whatever. That's like no ego means good writing. That's the idea. But then if you kind of think about it, you're like, wait a minute, you're claiming that you're in touch with an angel. That's kind of high ego. That's like you saying that you're super special. Um, and so then I'm back to being like, you're not special. You're not fucking special, okay? And the ideas are yours. So nice job. If you think of something good. It's not an angel. Uh, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever anyone's feeling or fitting or working for them. But I've been going the other way. But no, either way, I would want to put a spin on it where you're kind of trying to get away from the ego. But maybe there's an even way where a big old ego could be good too. So I don't even know. Um, yeah. So with this one, if you type out this, try and type out like the scenes a little bit. Like speaking of it, like playing in your head. So it presumably would uh start with the nun. I don't know if we. It would be an example of her using the Grail. Uh, she has an emergency to deal. She's like doing laundry in the sun. Uh, two drunk homeless guys. I'm typing like fast. Like this is so first drafty. Like those are like placeholders. Like they would not necessarily. They could be kids. It's like whatever. But you got to type stuff to kind of keep going. So, and this is sitting with the Viridiana, like plug and play a little bit. But two drunk homeless guys run up. There was an accident. One of their friends cut an artery and is dying. Maybe whatever. So then she helps them in, swears them to silence, and uses the Grail to heal the guy. The three of them pledge to help her. By the way, that reminds me though, this is maybe where it's a little bit harder to just write straight ahead, but there's a war happening, like some background. This might come up in the scenes, but there's a war happening with battles nearby. Towns are under stress from occupying forces. The like mansion that the nun is using and like who with and stuff like so Verdiana kind of explained a lot of that, like and that's part of the story. So it comes up like you would explain, but like who with like is it with in Veridiana it's like her uncle who has a crush on her and it's creepy. Like I don't know if I want to do exactly that because then it is almost too much, but it's like hypothetically you almost could do that for this exercise. Maybe I don't know. So it's who with. Is there? Does she have a boss? Story wise, sometimes the way a story would work is she does have a boss, and like kind of at the end of Act One or whatever, her boss dies, she takes over. Maybe her boss would pass the Grail on to her. It depends on what you want to do with the characters too. Because I kind of like the idea if she has the connection to the Grail. But there's another question you have to answer: is how she found the Grail. And I think she would have found it on a dead body in a battlefield. So, um, how she found the Grail? Found it on a dead body. Took it. Is she keeping it secret from her boss? You could do some more kind of classic drama stuff that's almost like corny, but like if she has a rival nun uh, who's like better than her at helping people, but then all of a sudden she has the Grail, she can cheat, but then she's helping people, so she's getting that satisfaction that she's always wanted. This almost other nun is like a bully, and she's like getting a one up on them because she has the Grail. But in that sense, the Grail is actually in some ways like a negative force on her, and she has this clinginess to it for these reasons that are not tied to like a good reason to like the Grail. And then coming into that, Percival wants to take it away from her. She will not relinquish it. Um, that all sounds like pretty good actually. If I can make some of that work, I would want to. Let me type some of this through, see how it goes. Uh, does she have a rival? We'll call it a nurse. So it's a war hospital run by because this is all pre-flood, so it's like it's pre-Christian, it's pre-Judaism, pre-everything. Um, and so I don't know if I want it to just be like run by a certain cult or whatever. It would probably be run by like more like a force, but I would say like a neutral force, and maybe they do kind of have a higher power sponsor or god that they keep some idolatry around for, but it's not a big deal except maybe to one other nurse. Then like boss nurse question. But how she would have this mansion, um yeah, like how they have the mansion to use for the hospital. What I could type up some options. We're already getting in. This is like quote unquote the weeds, but this is good to know. This stuff. Sark, what's up, man? Um, like so, if there's this war, quote unquote war, the war could be just between a beef between two lords or whatever. Could just be a beef between two lords or ranches, even like um, but it's like one of them captured it and converted it to a hospital. You can get into like a little, maybe you don't want to get too much into the weeds like this, but there could be like, if, like, are there any proxy forces? So sometimes there's a higher proxy force. So the higher, I don't know, proxy force is the kind of the right word, but it's like the umbrella force. So there's like an army that could smash both of these warring armies, but doesn't. They would prefer peace for money reasons. They are sponsoring the, what do you call it? The neutral hospital, or like one of the forces is running the hospital, but they are running it neutrally as a sign of good faith to the umbrella force. Or it's kind of shared jurisdiction over overseen by the umbrella force. Now, some of that, anything you'd pick, I'd kind of want to think through it. And I want to do kind of one of the simpler ones, but it's like if there was an umbrella force that wants them to not fight, like I even like what would, like what would America do in the Middle East? Like, would we fund a hospital? Um, or we tend to seem like we tend to fund the bombings. Like, if you want someone to stop fighting, it's I don't. There are probably better ways to do it than like funding a hospital in like a neutral zone. Um, the type of force that would do that, if there's like money behind it, you know, maybe it is like someone with interests. And are the interests like alternate interests? Are they good or bad? It can be good if and then in some ways this might be realistic, but like someone is, a quote unquote good Samaritan is funding this neutral hospital, but even he has kind of ulterior motives. Um, but yeah, so I'd want to figure out some of the politics, but you don't want that playing into the story too much. And then who finds out about the Grail comes for the Grail. This is what we want. We kind of want the and then like even what are like the analogs? Like the American Civil War is a pretty good analog for this. Like I feel like there would be literally just like a hospital. They deliberately like a more southern hospital may deliberately be set up in the north, and yeah, they would treat north people too as a right to exist there. They would have like a little deal, a little treaty. Like, yeah, we're not going to kill each other's hospitals. You can set up a hospital across enemy lines or whatever. So if that were the case, there's this hospital. They are sided with one side, but serve both sides. Um, Another thing you could say is like it could be like the battle has gone away. They exist only in the aftermath now. So soldiers are rare to see, but they do still have the marauding bandit problem. All right. With all that type, kind of trying to get into this again. So, two drunk homeless guys run up. There's an accident. Uh, she has to swear them to silence, but then she uses the Grail to heal the guy. Three of them pledge to help her. Then, uh, like maybe kind of pretty quickly to Percival rolling in, saying hi, what up? Maybe some scenes that would try to like get some of this across, whatever they're up to, what she's dealing with. She's dealing with like, she has a boss who eventually is gonna like pass it on to her. Uh, yeah, so we'll figure out if we plug in some of that stuff. Um, I'm gonna keep going here for like 20 minutes, but yeah, it's funny. It's like, I mean, yeah, just there's a lot to it, even if you keep it simple, and there's four more to do, and then you got to write them, which takes. But getting some of this work out of the way. But this is still a fun process because you see things come up kind of as you go. Um, so she doesn't tell him about the Grail at first. He has an excuse to hang around. Is he helping with something? He he's a little nosy. She doesn't like him. He might ask straight up ask about the Grail at first. Uh and she just lies. Then somewhere down here he gets drunk with the homeless guys and one of them lets it slip. He already kind of knew. Um he has opportunity to talk with her in the open about it, tells her she can keep the Grail and he'll stay and help her, but he has to go eventually and take it with him. Then, um, pretty much bandits and how they would find out, like how bandits find out. sort of scouting mission type thing. They hear the rumor, make a bet, decide the leader cuts one of his dudes, mortally forcing him to be the trap. So he wanders in. She does heal him, swears him to secrecy, but we know he's there to find out about the Grail. He does, and reports back. So he goes missing. Next day, Percival is worried. Um, and then just how action scenes and stuff work, or action movies, you know, we aren't even close to the climax yet. If we can plug in, if we did plug in some other of the world stuff, like if there was a plot of like passing of the torch with the nun to get the Grail, this version is moving pretty fast. But and then it's kind of the question of, is the first attack like Marauders at that point? They know the Grail. They kind of they had their little bet. He cut his friend mortally, forced him to go in to quote unquote pretend to be injured, even though he's truly injured. Um, and then uh, he finds out about the Grail, brings it back. So then the Marauders know. So at that point, it's good. What's good is it's kind of another kick the can kind of thing. So what could be cool is the Marauders are like ready. They are straight up just gonna occupy the hospital and take the Grail. And so you could almost do it like Die Hard style. Like they don't know Percival's there and he fights them off, whatever. That's kind of cool. But I was thinking it could be kind of funny if either either they kind of do, take over and they don't kill Percival, but he's just like a hostage like everyone else. But then an army does come, like a kind of like nice good guy-ish army from the side of the force that the hospital's on. They do come and are gonna kind of like bunk there for a night or two, and the Marauders either have to like stay in the forest and kind of stay hidden, and then it's kind of Percival's deal to warn the army, or they are in the hospital and they have to like. You could do a version where this is almost getting like too clever, but they could, it would literally be inmates running the asylum where they have to pretend that they work at the hospital, and and they have to like fake help the army that the army's there until the army leaves. Uh, Noah, what's up, man? So I could put the question: do they delay because of occupying army, or just busted out? Um, yeah. But yeah, maybe we could do the version where like for now try this thread where they take the hospital right away. Nothing um they can do. maybe Percival slipped through, has to go get help. I don't know. Um, or yeah, but it'd be good if it do anything like that, like between a rock and a hard place kind of thing. Like if an actual army does come and they're injured too, if they find out about the Grail too, so they actually want it too, and the Marauders want it too, and like Percival wants it, and it's like, what do you even do then? Um, and there would be like potentially this big battle just kind of about to happen because of the Grail when there's no reason for them to fight if the Grail didn't exist. That's kind of the supposed. It's a good what do they call it? Um, like what's it called? If it's a problem, I forget what they call it. Paradox. It's a good paradox. This is sort of the Batman paradox, though, which is good too. But it's when Batman gets accused of. But I don't know if it's true or not. But they would say like, if Batman didn't exist, then the villains wouldn't either. He's like the craziness that creates them. Even though he's fighting them, he kind of creates them just by existing. And that would be the case kind of here with the Grail is like it's meant to help people, but all it's doing is creating more reasons for people to fight. Um, and that is a good theme to play with or whatever. Um, but yeah, so we're getting close now to like what the climax would be is, that, and you don't know if it's like a big action scene or whatever it is, but like the resolution that's needed is there's kind of this big problem of brewing violence and kind of political decisions of what to do with the Grail now that more people are finding out about it. Um, and it is like a lot of times it's a situation where, yeah, the biggest force is just going to take it, but you could have a problem where the forces are pretty equal, and so then Percival could try and slip out with it in the night, but then he might not get far. He would still have some problems to deal with. Thanks, Jolly. Jolly says sounds dramatic. Yeah, we're this is sort of like an exercise because this is a very simple idea, and we're seeing how much we can like dig into it. 15 people watching. Thanks for being here. Who brought the brain? But yeah. So I don't know. Been streaming 52 minutes. Might hang out just another little second here. Um, but yeah, like it's not fully figured out. Um, and there are some questions to plug in. Like I think I would want the nun to have a boss lady, and the boss lady might not like it if the nun's there. Yeah, that's the problem. There's like multiple versions. And sure, you're trying to think like, okay, the version there's a version where the head nun, our main character nun, who has the kind of like unacted on attraction with Percival, she's just using the Grail straight up to heal people. So it's a very effective hospital. Rumors spread that it's great. People are coming, and yeah, she's helping them. And then like a lot of people kind of enforce the fact that like you can't just it might be tempting to steal the Grail, but you can't like that. It's for one, it's like would be really frowned upon. It would be really what do you call it? Like no honor or whatever, but no chivalry. But then this big force does come and kind of gonna cheat and try and take it. So then creates this conflict. A boss nun is called an abbess. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So um, the abbess just got done drawing, realizing I can't draw. Yeah. That if you feel pain from that, that is good. That means your brain is changing or whatever. They call it neuroplasticity. But you have to feel anguish. um, but yeah, I don't know. So one thing I like about this process is it can sometimes give you stuff to sleep on, and then you do get your subconscious working on it a little bit, and you can plug in stuff. So yeah, this is definitely still super early phases, quite undercooked, but there's still a lot there that we can imagine. Um, a lot of a lot of good stuff, and then it kind of just being this kind of still pretty simple Western-ish plot. I'm still a little curious about the resolution myself. If it's like, because so sometimes if it is like, an army wants the Grail, a marauding warlord wants the Grail, and Percival wants the Grail. The nun has it. Um, it's like maybe the army takes it because they're the biggest. The marauding warlords jump them, and there's a big battle. A lot of people die, unfortunately, for no reason. And then at the end, Percival does get to fight one on one with the surviving warlord who he has beef with individually from earlier in the story. And he gets to kill him and take the Grail and kind of walk away. And I mean, like, that's like simple. That's like borderline no twists, which is fine. I'm pretty sure. That literally could be what it is. But you'd want to be able to like does the nun die? Uh, or it would be best if she probably didn't die. The other thing is it kind of really you do want as much of an emotional core as you can, and you can't rely on Percival for it actually because this is like how westerns will work too. Like Shane or whatever, like the wandering hero, he is not the emotional core because he's like stoic. They are emotionless. Actually, they always leave. Uh, they're kind of heartless. They're a borderline psychopaths in a way. And then the emotional core comes from the characters that they are helping. So the nun who kind of needs this help from Percival, um, if I do like that idea that she's kind of using the Grail for the wrong reasons, even. And what that would be is if it initially was to impress her boss, just because she's competing, like that could work in the beginning of the story. That sounds almost like too trite towards the end. But I can figure out some reason where some kind of she would get a little bit of an arc or whatever. The Dawn, emotional assholes, heroes or bullshit. Yeah, yeah. Um, July says, "Do you have a page count in mind?" So for this one, I'm trying to do five generic movie scripts, 90 pages each. They, uh, yeah, and I was thinking I might try and straight up bust them out, but they're deliberately meant to be almost to the point of what's it called, ad libs, like just plugging in. Like we're using super simple plots. Uh, Definitely everything has to be super simple. Um, so there's that one. I want to do a cops and robbers one, but that is like hard to just get started. Like might have to just watch some cops and robbers books, movies and books to get in the zone. Um, Cops and robbers, it usually is like a heist story. So if your robbers are going to pull off the heist, the cops are trying to figure out and stop it. So if you do that, it's like that's another one where yeah, you're doing something that's been done a million times before, and that's okay supposedly. That's kind of the experiment. I just want to see what it's like. The dungeon crawler, a zombie story, and a cyberpunk one. So five. But the zombie one is pretty well developed. I could jump in. I could do what we just did for Percival, but for that, and I might try and do that tomorrow. I don't know if I'll do it live though. But then some of these others, they're a lot. I don't have quite as much for them, especially cops and robbers. But even like that's the thing. Like we have the base programming for this kind of stuff. Just growing up in America with these genre movies. So cops and robbers, it is like, yeah, let's do it as a heist. People are planning a heist. Cops are trying to stop them. You could have one cop undercover with the group. I don't know. That then you're pretty much doing Reservoir Dogs, but it would be different than Reservoir Dogs. But you're just doing that plot. Phil, Paris still alive. Dirty Harry set the bar for me. What if the nun keeps the girl secret because there's a prophecy to reveal it to the right person? Uh, that's not a bad idea for like a separate thing that um could be fun to play with something like that. But it's a little different direction than what I'm thinking for this one. That's a little almost like the Dune plot, but that's awesome. I mean, it's awesome when Dune does it. You can kind of get meta with the prophecy. Like the prophecy might not be an actual prophecy; it's more of like a functional thing that's used to try and like perpetuate this goal of like these occupying force, the CIA, the Bene Gesserit. You need more posters behind you. Yeah, I can make that happen. All right. Well, 18 people watching. Thanks everyone for hanging out. By the way, link in the chat or link in the description is for Brendan's series, Disintegration Street. Only 1 week left on that. So the series has been fully completed, so you can pick up the whole series. Definitely do so. Yeah. And I'll be getting out of here. So I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.